Bill Maher is back. The late-night host returned to the air on Friday with a new season of his show, Real Time with Bill Maher, and he ripped into New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani on his show, calling the mayor a straight-up communist.
He also restated his prediction that figures like Mamdani will lead to Democrats losing more elections in the future. Let's take a look.
Democrats seem to be having this debate whether or not Mayor Mamdani is a socialist or a democratic socialist. Let me settle it. He's a straight-up communist. How do I know this? Well, I'm reading between the lines when one of his major advisors says, elect more communists. It's fine. It's a belief system. He's allowed to believe it, and people are allowed to vote for it. But if liberals deny it, like he's just going through a goth phase, they're going to lose more elections. This is not a communist country.
Maher also took aim at Sia Weaver, Mamdani's new director of the Office to Protect Tenants, who's come under fire after controversial posts she made on social media were unearthed following her appointment. Maher pointed to her and the mayor as examples of why Democrats should have more moderate candidates.
The choices we get here are either the worst version of crony capitalism or communism, either a side deal for the Trump family every time he does business overseas, or the lady who says, impoverish the white middle class. Oh, yeah, there's a great campaign slogan for you.
This is, of course, not the first time Maher has been highly critical of the newly elected mayor. He's gone on record saying that he thinks Mamdani's policies will be used by Republicans to smear future Democrat candidates. And he's repeatedly called for the Democratic Party to move toward the center rather than farther to the left.
Based Bill Maher, love the guy. He's correct entirely, 1,000% on this. Mamdani is a communist. Sia Weaver is a communist who hates property owners and white people and has no business in government or being in charge of anything. In her comments, she says she wants to reduce the value of home ownership. Her ideas are bad. It's terrifying that he's listening to her. That it's terrifying he's in government. Yeah, I agree with everything Bill Maher said. You have the right to vote for it. Fine. It's a disaster. Will it damage Democrats? Now, I guess that's the part where I don't necessarily agree with Bill Maher. I don't know. Democrats love this kind of thing. Maybe this is what they're going to run on, and then it'll be really easy for a lot of independents to say, you know what? All the problems we have with Republicans and Trump aside, the other side is communist, so, oh well.
Bill Maher is like the Democratic Marjorie Taylor Greene, because he literally, what's the point of continuing to say like he's liberal and part of this party if he keeps on condescending every single thing? I haven't heard one positive thing from him. That's why Wanda Sykes was like, just shut up already. Like he takes the time out. Like there's no criticisms around the board to go for all.
Her to shut up, people would lose their
Okay,
mind.
well, I don't care. She didn't say that. I'm paraphrasing. She said, we've heard it, like you're talking enough. That's what she said. A very kind way to say, be quiet at an award show, because he's always just criticizing. I mean, calling Mamdani a communist is lazy. He's literally trying to put in a government that runs on accountability. I mean, what he's doing is like holding landlords to account, and he's getting upset with that people aren't getting taken advantage of in New York City.
To account.
Yeah, like landlords, like slumlords are taking advantage of people, not fixing things. And he's like, yo, you have like 100 different.
But I've explained this to you. You know why they're not fixing things.
Okay, no.
It's because they have rent control. They can't charge more for the unit, so it doesn't make any financial sense for them to fix things. That's under the policy Mamdani supports. Rent control is a bad policy that traps people in things that don't get fixed in bad situations because the owners can't make a profit, so they're not going to fix things. That's just like.
But who argues against the things that Mamdani is trying to figure out? He's trying to find housing stability. He's trying to close the gap of widening inequality. Like, these are some things that Mamdani stands on. Whether you disagree with him, I don't hear any better plans from Bill Maher, nor do I hear any better plans from Republicans about serious issues like housing or the widening.
Build more housing.
Build more.
Yeah,
I think said Bill Moore said. I'm like,
build
who's that?
More housing. That's
and also,
the answer.
I don't think the Democrats are going to lose elections because of labels. I actually completely disagree with him that not adopting. Take example Bernie Sanders. He was on Theo Von's podcast the other day. He's like, Mamdani followed my exact blueprint. Even as much as he's told me that he studied me before, I can see it now. When I was in early days of my career, he's following my exact blueprint. And look at the star that Bernie Sanders became to be. People like your favorite, Joe Rogan. Really fans of Bernie Sanders. He translated across the board, and he also was somebody who was not the establishment. So I don't understand why Mamdani, being this new, fresh person with one idea as a Democrat, needs to paint the picture of all Democrats, especially when we sit here and one segment ago had a conversation of how a Ted Cruz can exist, but also a J.D. Vance can exist and a Trump can exist in one party. And we all know several ideas, different types of leadership, but all in one party, right? And you always like, oh, it's okay. Variety of thought within the MAGA party. It's all, and okay, Mamdani, variety of thought.
Variety from progressive to communist.
Well, you know what? Democrats
wide
lose.
range.
I'll be the one to criticize. Democrats lose when they offer nothing. When their whole plan and policy is to
I hope they lose when they offer communism.
They offer nothing. But when they're offering something, they won. So you hoping they lose, but
Make
they're
America
offering
North Korea again?
No, democratic socialism to
Manca.
Mamdani is pushing forward in New York and holding people to account and making sure that prices go down. And if his strategy works, unlike President Trump's strategies that are not working,
prices go down.
He may actually have a winning argument. And then here we go. The Democrats should follow his lead.
When there is market competition for a thing.
Or
they don't
according
go
to
down
President Trump,
when the government
prices
says,
go down.
I order you to go down.
Exactly. So tell Trump to stop threatening people over bringing prices down.
He's
literally trying to
tell him to stop being a communist.
President Trump is threatening people to bring prices down as we speak, inflation down. So you're just saying that, but this is exactly what President Trump is doing.
Yeah,
so apparently people who like Trump like Mamdani. As we see, they like each other. So maybe they should get in line with the policies. And Bill Maher, who sat down and went to dinner or whatever he did with President Trump, should be open to Mamdani since the policies are really similar. He should be open to Mamdani. That's confusing me. He's just talking out of both sides of his mouth and just wants a criticism. He's made a lane and made an identity as the guy who's in the party that criticizes the party the same way MTG did. And if you can't accept and acknowledge that, then you're actually willfully being blind. He's doing the same thing as MTG.
On both sides.
So
There's too much Republican socialism, and then Democrats are traditionally the party associated with socialism, too much government management of the economy, central planning, all bad, unleash markets, lower regulation, lower taxes, let the market innovate, and you get lower prices, and you get more of everything, and it's better. We've run this experiment 1,000 times in every country, and everywhere where government leaves markets alone, people get more of the stuff they want at an affordable price.
Give an example. What country is doing better?
Time.
Give an example. What country do you love that the markets are so great that they just are all laissez-faire?
Literally every country that is all of Europe, the U.S., Canada, Australia, New Zealand. China has improved by having a market economy. They don't have a fully market economy, but when they didn't have a market economy at all, they had mass starvation. The Soviet Union had mass starvation. Everywhere that moves from complete government control of the economy to allowing some market developments sees like a tenfold improvement in living standards. And then people like North Korea, who still have a completely centrally managed economy, have widespread starvation and political repression. These things tend to go hand in hand. Sometimes you have market economies and you still have political repression, but if you have no market economy, you always have political repression.
I think that Mamdani is a couple days into his new position, and we should.
There's no political repression yet.
We should give the space to see if his plans work, because if they do, then you'll be in complete silence if New York has a big come up in the next year.
You're right.
But we gave Trump a year, and he failed miserably. So allow Mamdani the same space.
Never improved anything ever in the history of humankind. I won't hold my breath. But you're right. We don't have political repression yet.
Hold your breath.
Just 4 weeks into his term, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is sounding the alarm about the city's budget.
He says New York is facing a projected $10 billion budget deficit and emphasizes the seriousness of this deficit like this.
We are speaking about a fiscal crisis at the scale greater than the Great Recession. And so there will not be one single thing that can answer that crisis. It will require us to pursue every single avenue. That means looking inward into savings and efficiencies. That also means raising taxes on the wealthiest New Yorkers and the most profitable corporations. And it means recalibrating the relationship with the state.
You heard Mayor Mamdani hint there to his proposed solution to this Great Recession scale crisis. He says he plans to raise taxes on wealthy residents in the city, but he also says he wants lawmakers at the state level to increase the amount of funding it gives to the city. Take a listen.
We are looking for what New York City is owed. And what we have found in almost the entire duration that former Governor Cuomo was at the helm in Albany was the shifting of that relationship into one that is stunning in its imbalance. And so there are a number of specific things that then Governor Cuomo did in shifting those burdens There are sadly too many examples to be able to cite with you today, but it does leave us with many options for how we can bring this back to what is deserved.
As for raising taxes, a major concern is that doing so will drive out the wealthy who would be taxed under his proposal, something CNBC's Squawk Box pressed him on.
If you lose a couple of those people, is that in your mind okay? Is that a cost of doing business? Or is that a problem? And what do you do about that?
Well, I think I have to prove that this increased revenue leads to an increased quality of life. And frankly, we also have to get through the kind of fear-mongering that typically takes place in this. The other day, I was speaking to a New Yorker who self-identified themselves as someone who would be taxed by our proposals. They said, I'm going to leave, like you're saying. I said, I don't think you will. They said, why? I said, because it's a 2% increase. We're talking about $20,000 on an income of $1 million. They said, that's actually much less than I thought it would be. I wouldn't actually be making a financial decision on the basis of that kind of an increase.
Despite the $10 billion hole, Mamdani says he plans to present a balanced preliminary budget, but didn't say whether that budget would include his signature proposals like free buses and government-subsidized grocery stores.
Two things that you're obsessed with, the grocery stores and the buses. Can we focus on one thing? I like that he's holding the landlords to account. I like that the math.
That most of all.
I like that the math isn't crazy.
Can
I profoundly say what I gotta say?
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
2%, like he gave an example. It's a 2% increase. It's really irrelevant to a millionaire. It's $20,000. Not saying that money's irrelevant.
I'll just say 2% of your income if you.
Well, I need a couple more dollars to get to $1 million a year, but I'm hoping to get there soon. Listen, the most ultra high earners are not leaving New York because New York is the best.
We'll see.
As somebody who's from there, LA is totally different. And I say that as somebody who's weary, right? I understand Hollywood and the industry, and I've watched it Netflix build in New Mexico. I've watched Tyler Perry have one of the most popular studios now to be rented from in Atlanta.
Yeah, you don't have to live in
LA. And so now it's kind of like, oh man, I don't know. LA was always like Hollywood, and now movies are more and more shooting internationally or other places in the U.S. So New York could turn into like the place where people don't want to be, but come on, it's the city where dreams come true, never sleeps. Like it really, I'm from New York. I mean, I'm not gonna. And no, you're a hater. That's sheer hatred. Come on, guys. You guys know New York. Everybody internationally is like, I want to go to New York. I want to come to New York. It's like a dream come true to
then you get there,
get off the train and see all the things.
Yeah, that's like I think that dream is dying.
Well, I'll say, and
there's a lot nicer places.
New York is extremely and unusually dependent on high earners. So the top 1% to 5% already pay a disproportionate tax rate. And as I continue to pursue my American dream, I hope to be in that top 1% to 5%. And I would not like to be having Mamdani in there talking about, oh, we need more money. They already disproportionately pay like this key, like thousands of taxpayers pay like the most in extreme amounts already because New York disproportionately affects them. So I don't think people are going to leave.
5% of earnings, my dear.
Well, maybe I hold myself to a higher standard.
It's like not the 1%, but like the 3 to 5%. We very
you don't know. You don't know what I make, Rob. You don't know what I make.
It's in the ballpark. It's similar, I think.
Listen, I think at the very least, when I'm trying to defend Mamdani here, it could buy time as they come up with some concrete plans for the future, as they think about how they could prevent emergency services in the city getting cut. If this is extreme urgency that he's speaking to and saying that this deficit is wild and saying that maybe other parts, from what I gathered, he's trying to say that other parts of New York that aren't as concentrated as Manhattan are getting allocated funds like in the same amount that Manhattan's getting. And that's because of Cuomo is doing. If he wants to undo some of that to bring money in, it's not all just tax the rich. So I would think you'd be happy to hear about more of these policies.
No, I was. And I would love to hear more about that. I don't hold Andrew Cuomo in very high regard, so I'm not. I was not pushing back on that. I don't know enough to say. Now, I also...
And he didn't list anything.
Just because I don't like Andrew Cuomo doesn't mean that's a fair attack on him. Right. I have no idea what the situation is. If he somehow hollowed out payments that should be made to New York City or things that should be provided in New York City by the state, that's a bad thing. I don't know whether he did that or not. I don't automatically believe or disbelieve, Zoran, that that's the case. But that seems like something to work on. I'm glad he didn't say that we're going to fix this solely by taxing the wealthy, because that would be... But now his plan there was very specific. We're going to tax the wealthy this much more. On everything else, it's, we're going to recalibrate. We're going to look at things. It's kind of vague. That plan's very concrete. He thinks people won't leave. I don't know. Maybe he's right. California, though, is doing a more serious experiment. Yeah. Raising the taxes by much more, promising to raise them, and it is generating turnover. People are fleeing. We are watching it happen. The highest incomers are leaving the state. Now, that tax that some people in California are trying to impose is much more insane than Zoran's increase. So Zoran's increase might not have the same effect. But, I would be worried about this as a political leader in an era increasingly where remote work is a thing, where you can live and work in different places. We're more globally integrated. The network effects of being in a place like LA or Silicon Valley or New York are, I think, still, they're not nothing, certainly. I mean, I live in...
people want to...
I would rather
be amongst the people
no,
that
it's not nothing. I'm not
with.
saying it's nothing, but it is certainly less important than it was before. Particularly in these very high-income the tech industries where, you're coordinating, you're working with engineering teams that are halfway around the world. So, or people still living in their mother's basements in just some random place in the country.
I'm still thinking about you saying mom knows best or whatever, about a mom complaining about her child being wrongfully killed by the government.
Oh, let's not go back to that.
I don't want to go back to saying the mom knows best thing. Yeah, okay, fine. I want to hear more about his plan. I don't like that he was vague about what exactly Cuomo did and what funds were being allocated. He's like, too many.
Frankly, it sounded like kicking a man while he's down.
Yeah, I'll take them.
Fine.
Name all 20 of them. People would like to hear, where are they going? Because maybe the people don't want them to be rerouted to New York City if they're going somewhere that they really care about. So list them out at least on the website so we can comb through it. And I think this is somebody who's following through with the actions they said they would do. So again, we have to give Mamdani more than 4 weeks, as you mentioned in the intro, that he's been in office, and let his plan play out. He's been elected. Let's see how his plan works out, and then we can criticize down the line when things have a chance to.
The plan for landlords was to give them a financial incentive to never fix anything.
No, that's not you got to be a good person, Robbie. You got to fix the faucet if somebody's paying you to live in your space. You can't just let them be for dead without a faucet.
Well, you got to fix the faucet, but
you can't be a slumlord.
Upgrading to the infrastructure that they're only going to do if they can charge more for the unit.
Robbie, he has instances, he said, like over 1,000 of complaints from an owner, a business that has multiple buildings in New York that's not doing the right thing by the people that live there and the residents and the tenants. And so if that's the case, if there's one company that's claiming bankruptcy while at the same time dismissing the concerns of people that have been paying and lining your pocket for years, you got to make that right before you...
get tenants who would be willing to pay more in exchange for better service and a nicer building.
You got to fix the economy for people to be willing to pay more.
Well,
we can't. No one has any extra money to pay more.
Well, then you got to go somewhere where you can afford to live. I mean, sorry.
America's not that affordable right now, Robbie.
No, New York's not that affordable. America's plenty affordable. There are plenty of...
So somebody should just get up and move. Get out of New York.
People act like that's such an affront to our ancestors all moved.
It costs money to move. It costs money to move,
Go west, young man. Head out. That's what people move with their feet to more affordable areas where there's more economic opportunity. That's what everybody did for hundreds and hundreds of years, and now New Yorkers are acting like that's some affront to their dignity. Well, I don't see it that way.
Okay, well, I disagree because New York is the stock exchange. New York is the fashion capital. New York is one of the entertainment capitals. It just has everything there for you, and so people really do a lot of business there. International countries spend their days working off of a schedule that's East Coast timing. Sometimes they have scheduled emails or meetings based on East Coast timing. I think it's a real important place in a different way.
I didn't say leave the East Coast. I said leave New York.
Okay.
I can't deal with any time zone other than Eastern time. I don't know what time it is anywhere else.
All right.
D.C. Come to D.C. It's great. Although not right now because we're frozen in a giant block of ice.
New video this morning of what appears to be Alex Pretti, the man shot and killed by Customs and Border Protection agents on Saturday, clashing with federal immigration officers just 11 days before he was fatally shot.
Take a look at this video from January 13th that was obtained by the News Movement. Now you can see the man identified by the BBC as Pretti in the brown jacket there, and what he's doing is screaming at a car full of agents. He then actually goes ahead and kicks the car to the point that he knocks out the taillight there, and then the agents do come out, they swarm him, they pin him to the ground. We can see that there appears to be a handgun in his waistband. It's similar to the gun that was seen in the footage from the actual encounter that led to his death. Now, it's unclear if Pretti was detained following that incident or charged with anything. The DHS says they are aware of the video and are analyzing it.
A lawyer from the Pretti family confirmed to CBS News that the man in the footage was Pretti and told CBS, quote, "Nothing that happened a full week before could possibly have justified Alex's killing at the hands of ICE on January 24th. As of this morning, at least 2 agents involved in that fatal shooting have been put on administrative leave. The new video comes as tensions in Minnesota continue to escalate. Yesterday, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey met with border czar Tom Homan, writing on X, quote, "I shared with Mr. Homan the serious negative impacts Operation Metro Surge has had on Minneapolis and surrounding communities, as well as the strain it's put on our local police officers. I also made it clear that Minneapolis does not and will not enforce federal immigration laws, and that we will remain focused on keeping our neighbors and streets safe. City leaders will continue to stay in conversation with Mr. Homan and his team." And Homan even echoed Frey's call for community safety and communication during a press conference this morning. Let's take a listen.
In my meetings with folks so far, and most important, the governor and the AG, the Mayor Frey, we didn't agree on everything. One thing we did agree on, though, everybody I talked to agreed on, was that community safety is paramount. One thing we all agreed on was U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is a legitimate law enforcement agency that has a duty to enforce the laws enacted by Congress. That said, I'm not here because the federal government has carried this mission out perfectly.
But despite that, President Trump seemed surprised at Frey's refusal to work with federal immigration enforcement. And he rattled off this warning moments later on Truth Social. Surprisingly, Mayor Jacob Frey just stated that Minneapolis does not and will not enforce federal immigration laws. This is after having had a very good conversation with him. Could somebody in his inner sanctum please explain that this statement is a very serious violation of the law and that he is playing with fire? Frey responded, "The job of our police is to keep people safe, not enforce Fed immigration laws. I want them preventing homicides, not hunting down a working dad who contributes to Minneapolis and is from Ecuador. It's similar to the policy your guy Rudy had in New York City. Everyone should feel safe calling 911. That didn't sit well with the vice president, J.D. Vance, who jumped in with his 2 cents. How about federal law enforcement? Should they feel safe calling 911? Right now they don't, because you've told your police officers not to help them.
As you read this, didn't you, not didn't you, but I would say as somebody at home who lives in Minneapolis right now, watching my leaders or leadership on X doing this is trash. People really want some answers and want a proper investigation. They supposedly sent Homan in there. Frey is being childish by immediately rebuking him on X. The president is being childish by jumping in when you tried to send in the mediator to calm the situation down. The president is also speaking out of both sides of his mouth by also saying we want to abide by laws, but then they don't want to abide by their own gun laws that are in place protecting the fact that Pretti is allowed to hold a gun without being killed. He's going around saying, well, I wouldn't bring a gun to a protest when he's being interviewed. He has to abide by the laws of this country also, but he's calling Frey out. I think that everybody should calm down, and that's exactly what Homan said this morning. That's what you said.
I appreciate what Homan said very much.
And I just don't understand
why. He said, we'll look at it, and not everything's been done perfectly, but we're going to conduct targeted operations. I think that's a very satisfying statement. Now, we should address this new video, because this was a lot of subject of conversation yesterday into the evening as it came out. I don't think anybody should be kicking a police vehicle, knocking out the lights. That's maybe that feels good to you in the moment. That is not effective political change. It's violation of the law. It's property destruction. I've kicked my washing machine in blind fury a couple times. All I do is hurt my foot. I'm not accomplishing anything. So he could have been charged in relation. The tackling of him, and if he was detained or charged as a result of that, would have been totally proper. Now, the issue is, because I see a lot of people who are, critical of him going, aha, this is our smoking gun, this changes everything. Well, okay, but that incident took place a week before. It doesn't affect the calculation for whether in the incident where he died, they were authorized to use deadly force, maybe in some very extreme scenario where if they had happened to recognize or remember him from that one, nor does it, again, Kristi Noem said what she said about him before she knew any of this.
Right.
So
because they said yesterday they didn't
it doesn't really change anything about the conduct of law enforcement, or whether it was a justified shooting or not, or whether we need an investigation, or whether it was right or wrong to prejudge the situation. It does. I do think there was already a rush, as there always in the mainstream media, to canonize him and say, oh, he was the most perfect, sweetest, wonderfulest person who's ever lived. Well, no, you saw him in anger kick out the lights of a police vehicle, and
Well, I think that's just the problem with our society, is that sometimes when people die and we try to justify it, we feel like we need to make them a saint to say that their life was worth living.
Like they did with
he
George
can go,
Floyd.
He can go to George Floyd can get arrested, go to jail for doing anything illegal. He doesn't need to be killed. So that's the point, that we took it too far. And so just because you had a prior clash with police officers or law enforcement does not mean that you deserve to die in a moment where you might have another clash.
No, but nor does it mean you deserve sainthood.
Yeah, and I never agree with sainthood, because I think that falsifies that people deserve to live just because they do, as opposed to because they're a saint they deserve to live. No, we have laws because people should go to jail when they commit crimes.
Right.
And so that always has been my issue with ordaining people that just were killed for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and it's another good reminder to just, before you spout off on social media, when you've seen a clip, you know what's going on, you know the context, just wait. You'll never be wrong to just wait. Staff writer for Slate, Heather Schwedel, wrote an article on Vice President J.D. Vance and Second Lady Usha Vance's relationship after the couple announced they are expecting a fourth child earlier last week. The article was titled, "Well, that's one way for J.D. and Usha Vance to respond to the Erica Kirk divorce rumors," written by Schwedel. Starts by talking about the social media chatter surrounding J.D. Vance leaving Usha Vance for Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, which is just a disgusting rumor with no truth to it. While attending a Turning Point USA event at the University of Mississippi in October, J.D. Vance shared a hug, how dare he, with Erica Kirk, which went viral. Schwedel notes that the two were more darkly entertaining than plausible.
Schwedel adds, in lieu of trading in his wife for a paler model, Vance was...
Terrible. Go ahead.
Vance found another way to prove himself a good shepherd of the MAGA faithful. It does make a kind of sick sense that if Vance can't have a white wife standing next to him as he clearly looks towards the 2028 presidential election, the next best thing is a pregnant one. Schwedel mentions Usha's background as being a, quote, highly educated daughter of Indian immigrants. Schwedel suggests that background, Usha not only doesn't burnish Vance's MAGA credentials, she undermines them.
Schwedel also writes that it's so MAGA to have 4 kids. The average number of children per American household has been declining for decades, so having 4 kids in the year 2026 is a bit of a statement.
Schwedel then ended the piece, writing, quote, Usha is free to slap. Did I read that correctly? Usha is free to slap. I had this before JD went crazy. Stickers on her other kids.
Free to slap. I had JD before she went
Oh,
crazy.
got it. I was reading. Okay, Usha is free to slap. I had this before JD went crazy. Stickers on her other kids. But if she could ever claim any kind of ignorance, that time is over. Got it. She has now seen exactly who her husband has become as vice president, and knowing everything she knows, she concluded that yes, she wanted to have another one of JD Vance's babies.
Heather Schwedel got blasted online, deservedly, for some on the right about her views on Vance's relationship and having a 4th kid. Rachel Bovard, VP of Programs at the Conservative Partnership Institute, wrote on X, "This is, and I mean this with utter sincerity, the most gutter, vile, misogynist trash from Slate. This level of bitter nastiness could only come from a woman author, which it obviously did." Political commentator John Podhoretz shared Rachel Bovard's comments on X and wrote, "Holy jamoli, how foul." Yeah, this was just absolutely disgusting.
I mean, this is something that I would expect to see, like a TikTok influencer that was, trying to do like, oh my gosh, he's not with Erica Kirk like you saw online, because those claims were all over the place. Yes.
Nonsense.
So there was a rambling online about the back of the head hug, which had its own life and lived legs on besides a news conversation. The fact that this woman writes for Slate and is trying to write a news opinion piece, this is kind of out of line, because
it's all projecting. She's projecting that he wishes he had a white wife, because he wants to run for president, because everyone in MAGA is racist, and so he's having a 4th kid because having more kids is right-wing coded, and that's bad, and that's her perspective, which is wrong and bad and flawed and frankly evil in every way. J.D. Vance, I have no doubt that he loves his wife. I have no doubt that she loves and supports and agrees with him. The liberals get their idea that, these women who are married to these Republican men we don't like, they must just hate everything they're doing and inside be so, torn up about it. No, they agree with and support their husbands. Melania agrees with and supports Donald Trump. She wanted him to run for president. She told him, do it or stop threatening to do it. You got to do one or the other. She supported the idea that she's being held hostage and wants out is an utter fiction created in the minds of liberals, probably liberal women.
When she spends half of the presidency in New York instead of with her husband, people were going to naturally ask questions. I know at the time she was saying she wanted to keep her son in the same school, but historically, wives have moved in with their husbands to the White House and inconveniently moved their kids' schools as well. I'm just saying, okay, so this people have questions. I mean, you're in the public eye. You can't.
He likes going back and forth between the two places too. He goes back and forth between 3 different places.
I'm happy for Usha. Or Usha, you guys can correct me how to say her name. I'm happy for her. She's having a baby. She's 40 years old. She's a lawyer, smart woman.
Right.
I am very happy for her. I think that that's fantastic if you want to expand your family. I have no criticisms of that. I think when you continuously hear J.D. Vance, and this is not in defense of the article was trash, but when you have J.D. Vance who's often criticizing immigrants and elites. I mean, she went to elite school. Her family are literally immigrants. When he's like talking about diversity initiatives. She's a product of diversity initiatives. The fact that her family is able to be successful in this country and they're immigrants, and she embodies these stories.
Her by saying she's a product of diversity initiatives.
I'm just saying, like, you have the opportunity to be looked at as a migrant because we're not just hiring and bringing on our friends, right? This is something that we consider in this country.
You and I just have such a
we have different perspectives on this. I think that you should acknowledge that, right? The fact that people are open to hiring more women, hiring people of different races and colors. They weren't open to that decades ago. Historically, the numbers weren't right. People were actively only hiring men. There was times in this country when women didn't even work. So obviously we've come a long way. So your family as immigrants who came into a growing America have benefited off the policies that we've changed over the last decades to have a more equal society.
I support high-skilled immigration and non-discrimination. So
exactly. So
does
if people are looking at her and saying, oh, well, sometimes your husband says stuff that might directly criticize your family that immigrated here, or diversity initiatives or anything like that, they're allowed to have a criticism or a feeling about it.
Non-discrimination is just, we're going to hire or employ or allow to immigrate or accept to this school the most qualified person regardless of race. That's non-discrimination. Diversity is saying we're going to specifically look for people of a certain identity group because we feel like we don't have enough representatives of that class. That we on the right are all against. The former, we're all for.
Okay,
So
well, I disagree. You already know that. I don't want to debate DEI right now, but I do want to talk about the fact that she went to was considered an elite college. He criticizes these places all the time. Exactly. So he's running on a stance sometimes that are critical of her experience and his experience. Just like he criticized President Trump for years prior to being his vice president. I mean, this is not consistent. So I do think that he does love his wife because I think maybe he falls more in line with the things that he said historically as opposed to the things that he said the last few years because he wants to be Trump's friend.
I think you could say that elites have had a negative impact to some degree on our public policies as of late, that elite universities have gone awry and there's too much groupthink and too many bad policies, while still saying that, but they are important, they transmit fundamental foundational knowledge about various science and the law, and you need to be educated, and we can still criticize the education system while taking part of it. So I don't know that it's.
But why is it impossible?
Hypocrisy.
I mean, okay, so we both are in committed relationships. There are times when we're going to disagree with our partners. No, that's okay. That doesn't mean I don't respect or love you. Well, for Colin and I, we disagree about a lot of political stuff, and that's okay. But we don't disagree to the point that it's going to deteriorate the relationship. It's like, no, I don't agree with that stance. So
right. Well, they're also allowed to disagree.
They're allowed to disagree too.
But
that piece
I don't know that they really disagree.
That piece doesn't tie into, to me, their political disagreements that may or may not happen behind the scenes.
Sure.
I think that
but
piece was just obnoxious.
That she disagrees with him, and that she's just swallowed her pride or something is just. I think that is a liberal talking and saying, if I was in this situation, I would hate him. I would regret having married him, and so I'm projecting that onto her when there is no evidence whatsoever. It's the same thing they do with Melania. They project onto her that she must hate him and want nothing to do with him. There's no evidence of that.
Well, I think people just are trying
That's how you feel.
People are trying to build a story because they saw that back ahead hug, and that was very.
God.
I mean, Robbie, I'm just saying,
like made up.
It just was a very intense hug. That's it. I'm just saying, as a woman, that doesn't mean it means anything. It was an intense hug.
That hug
I don't hug in that way.
Hug bothered you.
No man should. If Colin has a problem if a man's hands are right where JD Vance are on my waist, I'm sorry. If you hug me and go low, then Colin's going to be like, what's up with Robbie? Like, like that's not going to be acceptable. So I'm just
keep
saying.
that in mind, I guess.
You're going to go like this on my waist as opposed to a regular hug? What are you saying? Your hand shouldn't go down on this area. Like, this is like normal questions that people online should have. People who write for news outlets should not ask these questions because they're not rooted in any legitimacy. But people online who go run amok every day are going to naturally ask these questions.
Okay, we got the back. All right, we got to move on. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries warning President Trump if he doesn't fire Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, Democrats will impeach her.
It comes on the heels of the killing of Alex Pretti in Minnesota, the second U.S. citizen to be killed there this month by a federal immigration officer. Now, more than 2/3 of Democrats are co-sponsoring articles of impeachment for Noem. In a joint statement with other leaders in his party, Jeffries wrote, quote, taxpayer dollars are being weaponized by the Trump administration to kill American citizens. The violence unleashed on the American people by the Department of Homeland Security must end forthwith. Kristi Noem should be fired immediately or we will commence impeachment proceedings in the House of Representatives. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Even some Republicans in Congress seem to be fed up with Noem. Senators Tom Tillis and Lisa Murkowski opting to bypass the president entirely and called on Noem to resign.
As for Trump, he doesn't seem to be concerned with threats of impeachment. The president insisted yesterday he would not fire Noem and seemed pleased with the job that her department was doing in Minnesota. Take a listen.
Good job. I think she's doing a very good job. The border is totally secure. Memphis, Tennessee, the crime is down 78%. And you know where else it's down? It's down in Minnesota. It's down in Minneapolis. And it's down very much because of the fact that we're there.
The White House followed it up, telling Axios if Democrats cared this much about deporting violent criminals, illegal aliens, and such, the American people would be much safer. Even if the House impeaches Noem with the help of some moderate Republicans, it's unlikely the Republican-held Senate would remove Noem from office.
Meantime, Congress continues to be deadlocked over funding Noem's department, specifically Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which would receive an extra $10 billion under the Republicans' bill. That's in addition to the $76 billion it received from Trump's big, beautiful bill last year. With a partial government shutdown looming on Friday, Democrats are urging Republicans to remove DHS bill from the main package and vote on it separately. However, Senate Majority Leader John Thune and Senator Katie Britt, who chairs the Homeland Security Appropriations Subpanel, have both indicated that they want to pass the package together.
Well, look, Kristi Noem is not going to be removed and impeached. She might be impeached.
Sounds so
She's not
confident.
going to be removed. This is Trump's personnel. This is his cabinet. He gets to pick his cabinet. And the fact that Lisa Murkowski and Tom Tillis, Lisa Murkowski is like the most moderate Republican there is. She's in a state of Alaska, which is a state that can go either way. Tom Tillis is not running for re-election. These are not people who have credibility in the MAGA sphere, so it's not amazing that they're saying anything. Frankly, it's more incredible that John Fetterman also called for Kristi Noem. John Fetterman is to their right, has more credibility in MAGA than they do. So, there is a lot of movement against Kristi Noem. There's a lot of frustration with her. The bringing in Tom Homan is the antidote to that on the Republican side, certainly not removing her from office. If Trump decides he wants to fire her, that's his right, but he's not, that would be the first cabinet member to leave. It might be her, who knows? He could change his mind, but she's not getting removed by Democrats. That's going to make him want to keep her.
He's not
more.
willing to take that L. I think there's some inside rumblings that we can look at as maybe an indication that things are not all smooth waters. I mean, aside from the very obvious fact that they are overstating things that they're not sure about. Miller's power, Stephen Miller, extends beyond Noem in this situation, but technically Noem is supposed to be higher ranking than him.
Well,
but she told Axios yesterday.
deputy.
Yeah, but she told Axios yesterday, quote, everything I've done at the direction of the president and Stephen. And so she's automatically starting to have this conversation about pushing blame. I'm not just going out there saying things. I'm basically being told to do this. And to me, that's a big label that she's trying to say is not for her to take the onus of. She's like, this administration has guided me to say these things. They're obviously having conversations. So when you see Caroline Leavitt say, well, we don't really align with, the president doesn't really align with the things that were said in regards to Alex Pretti. It's like, well, what's the miscommunication? Like, who's to blame? So right now we're seeing some internal blame game going on, and also having multiple people. Maybe Republicans aren't willing to say that we want to have Kristi Noem impeached because they don't want to side with Democrats and become this partisan battle where they're not siding with Trump. But I do think that people are critical of Kristi Noem. This is a failure of leadership to go out there twice in a row and call people domestic terrorism, people who came to massacre, and you have no information. And it's causing huge ruckus with the public. I mean, when we see polls about immigration after these incidences, you're seeing the support is waning from the president. And this is his big flagship mission, handling immigration. And if she's doing it on her own and she's saying she's not, it's completely deteriorating the trust of the American people when you have Americans killed during his operation.
Yeah, I mean, the people voted for mass deportations, and this is what mass deportation looks like. So now they're saying, not like that, no. Well, I don't know. What did you think was going to happen?
This is what it looks like, Americans dying? That's what I think the problem is. This is not what it should look like or anyone
Well,
wanted
then
it
we
to
want to
look
live in
like.
magic fantasy land where no one gets hurt at all?
No, we don't want to live in military land where military is marching all over our
Okay,
streets.
then there's not going to be mass
pulling
deportation.
people out of
like this, I'm
schools.
not talking to you. I'm talking to the American people. Like, consider the ramifications of what you're voting for. Do you want all the illegal immigrants in the country gone? Because then there will be military everywhere, and Americans' rights will be violated, and people will get hurt, and some people will die. And that is what is going to be necessary to deport 12 million people. If you don't want if you think the consequences and the harms to liberty are too great, then you should retract to some degree your support for mass deportations. That's what I'm saying. I mean, not at all addressing
Clarifying,
you.
exactly.
Like, there are trade-offs. We cannot wave a magic wand. This is the same thing I say to Democrats with guns. They're like, we want fewer gun deaths. Okay, well, that means mass confiscation of guns from economically disadvantaged and minority communities where most of the violences and most of the illegal guns are possessed. Do you want people law enforcement going door to door and violating people's civil rights to take their guns? If you don't, then stop talking to me about this issue, because that's what it would take. We can't wave a magic wand and have the policy implemented in the perfectest way and no one gets hurt or harmed. That's fantasy. And so if we're backpedaling now and saying, you know what, this is too ugly and too messy, and I don't think we should do this anymore, that's fine. But just, and I agree. I also would not do this given these stakes. But we can't implement the immigration agenda perfectly without any harms to anyone, is what I'm saying.
And I think you know that I'm not a fan of political vendettas, but cabinet secretaries can be impeached for abuse of power, violating public trust, lying to Congress or the public. These are all fair reasons for impeachment. And so Kristi Noem being impeached for doing 2 of the 3, and I can keep going on for other reasons, is a fair reason to say, if you guys don't get her out of here, she's not a good leader, then we'll impeach her. Now, whether it goes all the way through, we remain to be seen. It depends on if Republicans think that her leadership is adequate. They seem like they're going to side with Trump here, but them impeaching her, to me, is not partisan.
I guess we should momentarily comment on the funding battle. It will be interesting to see who blinks first. We could very much be headed for another government shutdown
by Friday.
Soon. I'm not quite sure who's going to, because Democrats, their base does not want to let them vote for more ICE funding right now.